So, lesson 34, passing by value and passing by reference. Occasionally, when you pass things to a method in Java, it would seem that the results are a little inconsistent. And I'm going to give you a demonstration here. I'll try to explain what this is. Hopefully the font's large enough so that you can see with this. So go to our trusty BlueJ. We have a main tester class. And what I'm going to do is I have an integer xx that has been initialized as 7. I'm going to pass it to my method. Let's take a look at my method that receives the integer. And it's going to add 3 to it, print it out. And then we go back, and once it's done that, it's going to print XX again. Let's take a look at this one. This is a string. A string is Shostakovich. I'm going to send it to the method, and it's going to concatenate piano trio on the end of it. Print that. And then go back up and print XXX again. Now we have XXY, which is an array, an integer array. And what this does is just print this out. Simple for loop. Blank line, sends it to a method, passes it to a method. And just to remind you, this is what it looks like. You just pass the object name. You don't need the brackets. Down here is where you need the brackets because you need to tell it that it's going to be expecting an array. So what it does is it will then double the value that's stored in each one, then print it out. I think you see a pattern, and then we'll go back up and print the array. Lastly, I'm going to send one of the elements of the array to my method, and it's going to, since it's expecting an integer, it's going to do that to it, print it out, and then it will print this out. Okay, it'll print it out again. So, I'll come back to that. Just a couple notes. The method names, as you might notice, are exactly the same. The signature, up to this point, exactly the same. Public static void my method, but it's expecting something a little different, a little bit more on that. So, let's compile it and run it. And we get I lost my terminal. Okay, so there's my terminal. So what we get is it sends XXX, as you might remember, or XX was 7. It sends it to the method, which adds 3 to it and prints it out. Then we go back to the main. It prints out XX, but we get 7. Shostakovich, same thing. Sends it, concatenates, looks like it works, sends it back to the main method, but we get Shostakovich. Now, what happens here? I send 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to the method. The method doubles them, prints it out, but when we go back, I get 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14. And strangely, when I send that 4 to the method, it prints it out first, just to show you. Then it adds 3 to it, prints it out. But when I get back, it prints it out as a 4. So what exactly is going on here? And this is not anything should be unexpected. There are a few consistent rules here. Java treats different types differently. So the two things are known as passing by value and passing by reference. Passing by value. This works with primitives. When we send it a double, or an integer, or for that matter a Boolean, what's being passed is the value of that object. In other words, a primitive variable is basically a container. You're making a copy of what's in the container. Passing it to a method, do something to it, send it back. It is not affected because the method will work on the copy of it. Passing by reference. As we said, objects are basically references to a memory location. Think about this as being more like trying to be economical with memory. And again, this is a little bit of a legacy holdover. Modern computers have so much memory we don't know what to do with them. But this is being economical with memory. When we pass an object to a method, we're passing the address, we're passing the reference. So the method actually works on the object, because objects could be absolutely huge. So this works in that way. Okay, let's take a look at this code first. And what's going to happen is essentially we have an S array, an integer array, prints it out, sends it to the test method, which prints it out, and then we print it out. And then we print it out again. So we send px is going to be the same as s, and then I create a new array, t2, send it to t2. Then when I start manipulating to t2 is, and then I simply now assign px to t2. So this looks like it might affect the original S array, but it doesn't, because I've changed the reference. So that refers to the local array at this particular point. Just don't get confused by that code. So when I get back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, it's going to print out the T2 array. But when I get back to the main method, it's going to print 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nothing unexpected. So the last one, strings. What exactly happened? And we know that strings are objects because strings is capitalized. But the strings, as I think I've mentioned a little bit earlier, are treated slightly differently. And again, think memory conservation. They're objects, but they're stored in what's known as a string pool. And they have the same outcome as integers and doubles. So strings and primitives are passed by value. It makes a copy of it and sends it to the method. Whereas objects, the array is an object, will send it as a reference. And any objects that you create that happen to be sent to a method, if you make a change in the method, you are changing the original object. One last note, if you remember that one array element that I sent to the method, that one array element was not changed because it was sent as a primitive. Okay, let's go back, take a look at this. And once again, just to point out, to close here, just to point out, public static void method, but inside we have int x, string x, int x. So Java compiles a database. When you compile it, or rather it creates a database, and it knows if I send a method, even though these are exactly the same method name, if I send it an integer, it's going to work with this one. If I send it a string, it's going to work with that one. If I send it an integer array, it's going to work with that one. In this program, if I send it something else, it's going to crash. So Java works with that. So once again, if I send it the one value, remember we got 4, 7, and then when we went back up, it got a 4. This again is overloading, and this is perfectly normal here. So just to summarize, when you send something to a method, if it happens to be a string, and you manipulate it in the method, the original will not be changed. If it's a primitive, the original will not be changed. But if you send it an object, the object will be changed. Okay? You have some homework, so do that. See you tomorrow.